Welcome to Simply Pickleball, the podcast where we discuss all things pickleball, the fastest growing sport in America and around the world. We're interviewing the founders, industry leaders, athletes, lovers of the sport that are driving this spectacular growth. If you love pickleball as much as we do, listen in. Hi, I'm Crystal Brown, and I was lucky enough to catch up with Wayne Dollard, owner of US Pickleball Magazine, founder of LevelUp Pickleball Camps, pro pickleball player himself, and much more. He shared his journey into the game, his wildly successful camps, and a few key surprises about what's next. Okay, now to the show. Thank you so much for joining, Wayne Dollard. So excited to have you. You were a coach and the leader at the pickleball camp that I attended in Newport Beach. And I was really excited to learn about your business. And I was wondering if you can just start to sort of let me know, have you always been super athletic? Were you hitting a racket when you were little? Because I know you're tennis background.
Well, I wouldn't say super athletic, but yeah, I started playing tennis when I was little. I was playing in tournaments when I was 10 years old. I played at Penn State, got into college, played at Penn State. So yeah, I was into tennis for a long time. And then after college, I started playing platform tennis. I played that competitively till about 10 years ago. I'm now 53 years old. Mm-hmm. So I played that competitively till about 10 years ago. I traveled around.
How do you differentiate platform tennis?
Platform tennis has a much heavier paddle. With holes in it, and it has a board made of aluminum, a very rough grit that's sprayed onto the aluminum, and there's screens that go around the court. It's the same size as a pickleball court, but there's an out of bounds area where there's a fence around it, and you can play the ball off the screens. So there's a ball in the middle, you serve overhand, you serve and volley, you play balls off the screens. It's a really fast-paced game. A lot of great tennis players gravitate to platform tennis after college.
So maybe that's a little precursor to pickleball.
Absolutely. All my friends who are in their 50s who played very competitive platform tennis are now jumping into pickleball too.
Interesting. So yeah, when is the first time you had heard about pickleball and decided to pick up a paddle?
I think the first time I heard of pickleball was probably about 10 years ago or so, 12 years ago. I was in the Villages visiting my in-laws, and we were playing platform tennis. And of course, we heard the pickleballs next door to it. And so we went and we played a little bit of pickleball, and people were yelling at us, "What's your rating? You shouldn't be here. What's your rating?" I kind of laughed. And then
because you guys were too good, because you were so good in the beginning.
Well, they were advanced beginners probably.
Yeah.
And being that we already had racket skills, we were already better than that advanced beginner level the first time we played. I'm not going to say we were too good, but I'd say they were beginners.
That's very fair. So where is the Villages? Is that?
I'm sorry. The Villages is it might be the largest senior community in the country. It's in Florida. It's its own place. It's probably like 100 square miles of senior living, 50 and over, 55 and over, something like that. And they've got something like 300 pickleball courts there. I can't remember the number.
Wow. And
they've got it's spread in little towns all around in the Villages. Yeah. And it's just a big hotbed for pickleball.
That's awesome. That sounds like a place I'd like to go. When you got home from visiting the Villages, what happened next?
We got home from so that was I'm going to say 10 years ago, and nothing happened, right? And nothing happened for a long time. And then in 2015, I was in my office in Pittsburgh. For a living, I published magazines.
Yeah, I wanted to hear about that too.
Well, I own 40 magazines. They're mostly community magazines across Pennsylvania. I also published the Pittsburgh Steelers magazine. I published the National Magazine for Platform Tennis. And one of my advertisers in platform tennis was Wilson Racket Sports. And the vice president of marketing for Wilson was Terry Graham. And Terry Graham calls me, and I worked with her for about 15 years or so or more. And she called me one day and said, "Hey, Wayne, I'm leaving Wilson. I want to give you a goodbye, but I'm also calling you to see if you'd consider starting a magazine for pickleball. I'm leaving Wilson to start something called the Pickleball US Open in Naples, Florida." And I thought, you got to be kidding me. You're leaving Wilson to start a US Open for pickleball? And she was very serious, and she's very smart lady. And so I took that a little bit seriously. And later that day, I went golfing. And I was golfing, and a guy named Chuck Vittmeyer, who's the in charge of product development for Gamma Sports, was at my driving range with me. And he said, "Wait, I need to talk to you about something." I said, "What's that?" He said, "We talked about starting a magazine for pickleball." I said, "You're the second person today."
That is so strange. I mean, serendipitous, I guess.
It was. So because Chuck said that and Terry said it on the same day, I decided to look into it. And next thing you know, I guess 5 months later, we have a pickleball magazine going. Amazing. It's been the best thing we've ever done. I absolutely love it.
So were you always in publishing since college, and was that a family business?
Pretty much. A few years after college, I jumped into the publishing business just because I thought it'd be fun. I didn't have any particular experience, but I thought it'd be fun. And I started a golf magazine, and I started Platform Tennis Magazine first because I liked the sport. And I just replaced an existing black and white newsletter they had, and that magazine took off, went really well. And then I quit my day job, which was as a color laser specialist for Canon copiers and printers. And I left that and I started community magazines in Pittsburgh and then in Erie, Pennsylvania, and Philadelphia. And I just loved doing what I was doing. My quick experience is this. I went to my first national championships in I think it was Casa Grande, Arizona in 2015. And I saw all these families. I saw in Selkirk, I saw the Barnes family. And in Engage, I saw the Elliott family. And I saw the Smiths together in Paddle Tech. And I saw all these family businesses. I thought, wow, wouldn't that be fun to start a magazine for pickleball? And I could travel around with my wife and my kids and just have some fun playing the game, maybe playing tournaments, getting article ideas. And it wasn't until maybe about 2 years later that we started aggressively playing tournaments and doing that type of thing. But it was a family idea. A way to spend time together as a family, and it worked great. To this day, 2 of my kids are working with me. My wife and I, we travel together. So
your wife, did she get into it right away like you did? Did she pick it up and love it?
She did. She was a full-time tennis pro. So she was teaching a lot of tennis, and she liked pickleball right away. And in 2018, we played our first tournament. I think it was the Gamma Classic in Pittsburgh, and it was a 5-0, and we won it. And then we played quarterly in 4-5. We won it. We played the U.S. Open and Nationals 4-5. We won them all. And when you win all those tournaments, it's pretty exciting. It's like, okay, you know what? We're gonna start playing pickleball now. That's when it got serious. When we started to have good success at the 4-5 level, we thought this is a lot of fun.
That is so great.
So we took off on it together.
So you started the Pickleball Magazine, and how did that do right away? Did people want to read it? People buying it?
The first big success we had was with the USAPA and the major manufacturers. We went to that first nationals in 2015, and I talked to the USAPA. Justin Maloof was a big proponent of the magazine. And if it wasn't for him, we wouldn't have started a magazine. But Justin ran right off the bat, said the USAPA would love to be involved with this. And so his involvement in the USAPA really helped us because they provide the content we needed. And then I talked to all the major manufacturers then. I talked to, Paddle Tech and Head and Wilson and Selkirk and Gamma and Engage and all these people. And they all said, yeah, if you start a magazine, we'll support it. And so their support allowed us to start that magazine in I guess, late fall, winter 2015. So if it wasn't for all of those people, it wouldn't have happened.
How about circulation? Was it easy to get people? Were they interested? Were they wanting to read it? Like, what did you find?
It's hard to sell subscriptions to any magazine. In any of our magazines, it's always hard getting someone to physically go to your websites, put a credit card in, and even if they want the magazine, it's hard to get people to go do it, right? So our big success we had was with advertisers. The USAPA agreed to send the magazine out digitally to all their members on day one.
Oh, that's great.
I think we had like 10,000 members getting the magazine digitally, and we had basically 0 subscribers at first, hard copy. And it's grown and grown with the USAPA. And I think we now send it out to like 80,000 of their members. Wow. We mail about 20,000 hard copies to people who buy the subscription. And then we email the magazine to an additional, I guess it's like an additional 180,000 people, something like that. So the magazine is going to almost 300,000 people per issue now. Not quite, but almost.
That's amazing. Wait,
getting there.
And it's only just begun. I mean, the craze. So then when did you guys transition into teaching and the camps? And, like I said, we crossed paths at one of your amazing camps in Newport Beach, and curious when that started.
We were visiting a tournament in Centralia, I think it was, in Washington State. It was called the Indoor Nationals at the time, self-proclaimed Indoor Nationals. This was in 2017, I think it was. And there's a guy there named Rob Davidson, who's a really well-known, well-liked pro player. And Rob basically said to me, hey, I'm looking for a job in pickleball. Are you hiring any editors? And I said, no, but do you like to teach pickleball? And he said, yeah, I loved it. I said, tell you what, let's get some camps going. So I started LevelUp Pickleball Camps, and Rob was our first pro. Started doing small camps of 8 people. He was doing them for me. I was assisted for him actually.
Yeah.
And we had like 8 or 16 people our first few camps, and it was a lot of fun. And then a year or 2 later, we hired Tyson McGuffin And we had more camps. We went to 20 camps a year to, I think, 60 or 70. Then the next year we went to 100 some. And then we just kept adding camps and pros. And at this point in time, we do I think this year we've got about 205 camps scheduled for this year.
Wow. And there's not only 8 people, right? There's about 50 to 100.
So the head pros, there's myself, my wife, and my son, Brendan, who's a great 5-0 player as well. We have Joel Ickes out of Orange County, California, amazing pro and coach. Cal McMakin out of San Diego, fantastic. Mike Patterson is in San Luis Obispo area. He teaches at Templeton Ranch. He's a great head pro. We've got Larry Vanderoost, who's not New Haven. He's up in Michigan somewhere. I can't.
Okay.
Grand Haven, I think it's called.
Yeah. Great.
And we've got a couple other pros as well, and then assistants. We have about 50 assistants that travel on with us. So we're just kind of.
How did you know that there was an appetite for camps? And how did you know to invest?
We didn't. We started camps as a fun thing to do. We thought it'd be my accountant called the camp business, LevelUp Pickleball Camps, my most expensive hobby. Because at first it was costing us money traveling around, but we were having a good time as a family. And then as soon as we started getting 24 people per camp, then 32, then 48, then 64, we've had camps as big as 120 people in Naples, Florida even. As soon as it became a larger number of people attending the camps, it became a monetary source at that time and a good business. And now this year, we're scheduled to see over 5,000 people at our camps. Last year was 4,300, I think, and it just grows every year.
It does. It's kind of amazing. And so you guys, and I know you invested in a trailer that you guys ride around in, right?
Yes, we did. We bought a 43-foot RV, a pull along. It's 14,000 pounds. I had to buy a big diesel truck to pull it. And last year, I drove from Pittsburgh across the country 6 or 7 times, and I drove to Florida about 4 times. It's over a 12-month period. And then that's just what we did. We travel around My wife she likes to fly across the country, but we meet her on the other side, and we stay in this. It's a very luxurious.
Yeah, I know. It looked. I remember seeing it, and that's amazing. So as a family, you guys spend a lot of time together. You're really connected over pickleball, and you kind of mentioned that with some of the other brands that have come into pickleball. So what do you see next? Because you're busy. You've got the magazine. Do you guys still play in tournaments?
Here's a quick story for you. After winning the 4.5 nationals, we thought we were going to be pretty good players, and we entered the pro category. I think we were about the oldest pros in the pro tour in 2018. Our first pro match was against Catherine Pranto and Joey Farias. But I remember our first match. I just looked at my wife. I said, "Just pound your ball at that little girl over there. I'll put it away." My wife smacks the ball at Catherine, and Catherine just smashes the volley past me. And I looked at my wife. I go, "That was weird." Needless to say, the whole match we got blown off the court. We had to learn how to play the game properly, and we started practicing doing our drills. And within the next couple of years, in 2021, we won the 50 and over national championship, U.S. Open. We won the 5-0 championships. My wife won the 35. She's 53, but she won the 35 and over U.S. Open as well. So it took us a few years after the 4-5 level to really get to that level where we knew what we were doing at a pro level. And so at that point in time, we're kind of done. We pretty much stopped playing tournaments in 2021. We've only played one since then, and we just travel around teaching. It's just so much fun just traveling around teaching. That's what I love to do.
That's amazing. So you're okay now. You still play, I imagine, for fun.
Oh yeah, we still play very competitively with our pros, and all our friends we play with are at the highest level, and our teaching pros are all 5 plus, and so we still play competitively with those guys. We just don't play in many tournaments because we're either working on our magazine or other projects, or we're out there teaching camps. What do
you think happened? Why do you think that all of a sudden? I mean, you've got experience with other racket sports and other sports in general, and you've been able to see trends. What do you think has just happened in this explosion lately?
I think it all comes down to the USAPA. The USAPA really helped out. In 2010, there's 100,000 players, and they aggressively marketed the sport starting in 2010. Okay. And when they did that, the sport was ready to take off, but it never was. And the reason it's ready to take off is because it's a very inexpensive barrier to entry to get into the sport.
Yeah.
And anyone can play pickleball at a basic level. If you came to me and said, hey, I've never played tennis before, can you teach me how to hit the ball 6 times in a row over the net with my partner? I'd say, give me 6 months. If you said, can you teach me how to do that in pickleball? I'd say, give me 5 minutes. So the barrier to entry to financially get in the sport is very small. And the playing ability at a basic level is also very low. So if you're older, it was a great demographic for people who couldn't play tennis anymore. My dad's 90 years old. He still plays tennis, but the games aren't very good. But he can play pickleball and have a nice game. So the USAPA really promoted the game taking off, and they helped out so much. As soon as you started a magazine for the sport, you had tournaments in the right places, you had the right vendors pushing it. It just all took off together.
What do you think is sort of the next thing to come? I mean, I actually interviewed someone about college pickleball and collegiate pickleball. And I'm just curious, what do you think the trend is? Because I mean, it's obviously the demographic ranges from, young kids to like your dad, 93. But what do you think? Where do you think it's sort of missing its moment and yet to come?
Exactly what you said. I think it's missing its moment with juniors. I mean, I'm seeing kids playing all the time now. I mean, it used to be, I'm from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, that for 30 years, all the kids in high school or middle school, I should say, have pickleball as one of their elective classes. Right?
Oh, it is. I was curious about that.
Oh, it's interesting. We've had it. We played it a couple times when I was in high school back in the mid 80s.
Really? Wow.
Or middle school, yeah, exactly. But it's. I think that's the big market that's to come is going to be, the pro market will continue to grow at the highest level. But also I think that the juniors, you're going to see a lot of more kids jumping into it. It's hard to get into colleges and high schools and push this as a new sport because you have to deal with all high schools across the country and all that stuff and colleges. But I do think it's a natural progression. I think if things continue to go the way they are, it will happen. It's just same thing with Olympics. It's going to happen if it continues the way it is.
So how do you think it would look in college? I mean, would you imagine it would look more like tennis, or do you think it'll look more like hockey, or, how do you manage a sport like that in college? Or high school, for that matter.
I really don't know. I could only imagine that it'd be something like a college, maybe, where in college you have 6 singles teams, you've got 3 doubles teams competing. I could very much see something like that, or maybe more doubles. I really don't know. I wouldn't be the person to ask about that, but I guess
I'm just curious because you're out there talking about it, and sort of like where else, and what about tournament play? Like, I know that right now there's a sort of, I don't know if it's more of a fun tournament, but it's at a lot of the ballparks. There's a pickleball today. Actually, today it's in San Francisco, where I am at the Giants Stadium. But what do you think about the Pro Tour? Do you think it's going to start heating up and really just, kind of?
Hope so.
I'm
not sure. I hope so. I know that teams are going for a lot of money right now, and I don't know if there's really any money being made right now in the tour. As a matter of fact, I assume there's probably not, but I really don't know on the not the tour so much as like the PPA or APP. I mean, I'm not sure about the Major League Pickleball, and I'm not sure how that's working yet. I can imagine one day there being pickleball teams in all the major cities, and just like a real league like Major League Baseball or NFL.
Yeah,
I think they're trying to do that right now. They are trying to do that right now. I don't know what the success is. You need a big audience, and the most important thing you need is you're going to need TV coverage. As soon as you make it a mainstream thing on TV, that's when that falls into line. And I'm guaranteed that people a lot smarter than me are trying to do that right now with Major League Pickleball. I'm sure that's what their next step is. And
well, it's fascinating to watch. I mean, it's fun to watch. So with your camps, how much more can you scale? I mean, you're only one family, and you've got incredible demand, and you're selling out in all these cities. How much more do you even want to do than you're doing, so you can still have your life?
It's a good question. It's again, we have 50 pros that work for us. And so they do a lot of the work. Last year, I personally did 52 camps. This year, I did something like 30. And next year, I'll probably do something like 20. And I'll spread those other camps out with other pros. It's hard in order to maintain the quality you have in your camps, you can't hire a bunch of pros. You can only make one head pro per year. So that's pretty much what we do, is we try to develop one pro into a head pro over a year. So if someone came to us and said, I want to be a head pro for LevelUp, they'd have to be a 5-0 player. They have to be very personable. They'd have to do camps with us, probably about 40 camps or so for a year, and really get the system down. And a lot of people have tried, and we have not, we're very choosy on who we pick as head pros.
Yeah, of course.
It's not easy for sure. But I could see us adding one more pro maybe next year, and maybe one the next year after that. And I could see us going maybe from 200 camps this year to 205 this year to maybe 240 maybe next year, or maybe 260 or 280 the next year. But it's a slow process. It's not going to be, okay, let's do 400 camps now. You lose all your quality.
But the demand's there, right? You're seeing incredible demand.
Yeah, I'd say the demand's there. Yeah, if we wanted to run 400 camps right now, we could probably sell them all out. Right. But finding the right people to do it is the biggest issue, I think. It's really hard to find those pros. We've worked with the best teachers in the game, and I'll tell you, it's just hard to find those perfect pros. Hey, if you know anyone out there who's looking to
well, so maybe someone's listening.
Someone's listening. They're a 5-0 player, really personable, have great energy, and they're interested. They want to try us out by maybe assisting in some camps, or we're always looking.
I know I met your son. He was teaching at the camp that I attended, and he's great. Now, does he play? Does he compete otherwise? Or does he
hasn't played tournaments yet. All he does is teach and play with the pros when he's teaching. He's getting very good very fast. He's already passed up my wife and myself. So he's very good. He's also only 25 years old. But
figure it out.
He's getting very good. But no tournaments on the schedule yet because he's always traveling around teaching. Right now he's in Denver. He's in Colorado Springs last week. He's just always traveling. Next week he's in East Coast for 2 weeks. Or next 2 weeks. So he's always traveling and teaching.
So do you guys still have time for family bonding and you and your wife, where you can maybe talk about other things besides pickleball, or because you're busy, you've got two basically huge businesses growing.
Yeah, we talk pickleball all the time, but so last year we were so busy. This year we took the summer off, where we're only doing 3 camps this whole summer, personally with our family. My wife and I, and that is, we did one in Hilton Head, and we vacationed for a week. We did one in Ocean City, we vacationed for a week, and we did another one in vacation for a week. So we're basically taking the summer off, and then the schedule starts back up heavy late August again. Yeah, we cut way back on our camps this year personally. But one reason, I didn't tell you this, but one reason is because we're actually launching a couple facilities. We're looking to build two pickleball facilities.
Where will they be?
Can't say about the
okay, no problem.
One's in Pittsburgh. That's okay. One's in Pittsburgh. The other one's somewhere else. But one's in Pittsburgh. We're going through approval process right now, and we hope to have that open by January or so. And that's going to be 16 indoor courts, a restaurant, things like that.
Oh, that's great.
The other one's a little bigger. But yeah.
And it's interesting. In San Francisco, we have a huge shortage of courts. There were actually only 11 dedicated courts for fairly big city. And I know this has been an issue in LA and sort of across the country. The cities can't keep up with the demand. So then a lot of the indoor courts are being built, and I guess you've heard about malls and things. But I feel like it's ripe for that kind of a business. And we even traveled to Las Vegas because they have a really nice outdoor, it's like Sunset Park with 24 courts. Yep. But where are you seeing that, that kind of investment going right now in terms of building facilities? And do you think that the demand is there in every city? Because, I only have perspective of the cities I've been to, but I know it's growing in every city that you're doing camps in. Are you just seeing a need for more courts?
Everywhere we go, they need more courts. And everywhere we go, they're building more courts. And the first thing that happens, of course, is they're repurposing tennis courts that aren't getting much use anymore. Yeah. And I'm an avid tennis player, and I hate to be the first one to admit it, but tennis is not growing. I mean, it's not significantly growing. If anything, it's declining. And tennis players like myself hate to see tennis courts going away or being replaced by pickleball lines, but at the same time, that's progress and that's the future. And tennis players hate to see that. And in places like San Francisco, where land is just so expensive, you're not going to be able to just build new courts unless you're using existing land. So your choices are either build them on top of tennis courts or go into malls or things that are being shut down and fill in those places. That's what most people are doing right now, is they're repurposing those things. What I'm doing in Pittsburgh is we have 3.5 acres. We're building a brand new facility from scratch, because in Pittsburgh we still have some land in places. But in other major cities, they have to find other solutions like indoor malls, closed up Bed Bath and Beyond stores,
it's true,
or tennis courts or whatever. So they just kind of keep doing those things, I think.
What do you think about the difference between indoor and outdoor in general? Are you more of an outdoor player or more of an indoor player? Does it matter?
Well, I'm from Pittsburgh. What that means is we have to play indoors a lot. I mean, I like playing outdoors, of course, more than indoors. It's much more fun. The environment, all that's better. When I go to Florida, it certainly gets very hot after 12 o'clock. You don't see many people playing 12 to 5. That's a problem. But I like the indoor courts because you always know what you get. You always have that same 72 degrees. The lighting is always perfect. If you get good indoor courts,
right.
Most don't have good lighting, but the ones we have are all good lighting. The surface, I don't like playing on hardwood floors. I don't play on hardwood floors. It's a different game.
Yeah.
I don't like temporary nets very much. So the outdoor courts, the permanent nets are always much more fun to play on.
What is the court made out of, or what's the flooring that they use on indoor that you do like? What will you play on?
Well, ideally tennis court surface. A lot of places will have the regular tennis court surface down. The best is if they will put asphalt indoors and then coat that with either some type of deco turf paint or rubberized surface, whatever. They don't have to, but asphalt is definitely the best surface to play on. It's easiest on the knees and the joints. And if you could put that rubberized coating over top of it, that's even better. Most people don't do that. Most indoor surfaces are either wood or concrete. Concrete is hard on the knees, and the ball balance is a little too high. Wood, the ball skids, so that's not ideal. So asphalt outdoors or asphalt indoors is by far the best surface for pickleball.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think you're right. There's a lot of interest in building courts, but it's almost like as soon as they open, there's more demand than there was before, because it's like if you build it, they will come. And the numbers are just astounding. And what about sort of paddle technology? I know that when you go to your camps, you let people demo a lot of paddles. How are you guys keeping up on the latest technology and knowing which paddle people should use? Because I'm sure you're getting asked that all the time. Which paddle should I buy? And you sort of become a de facto expert.
We do. So I'm going to give you a little surprise here. I'm going to give you a little heads up on something which I didn't talk about. And my son is actually coming up with a paddle. But that's great. I'll show it to you. You'll be the first person to see it. How about that? You'll be the first person to see
that's awesome. Great.
I wasn't intending on doing that here, but I actually have one here. We go to our camps. Every major manufacturer wants to put their paddles on our table so we could sell them. And we pick the best paddles that we like for our campers. And our campers are mostly 3.5 players looking to move up to that 4 or 5 level. So we pick certain paddles we like. From Paddletech, I love the Tempest Wave Pro. Okay, I just absolutely love that paddle. It's just
I like it. Wait, will you hold that up one more time? Let me just check it.
I'm doing something with it, but
okay.
I love the Paddletech Tempest Wave Pro. Just a fantastic paddle. It's got good pop. Good, little power punch to it. It's got great feel. I love the Selkirk paddles, particularly the Vanguard series. I love the Epic is a great seller for us. The new ones they made, I don't like as much as the old ones, although you see the ones with the hole cut out. Although you see on the Pro Tour, a lot of people using those. I like the old ones, the Vanguard series, a lot still. Other paddles from other manufacturers, the new Yola paddles, I like the new Perseus paddle and the one Ben's using. And some of those paddles, I like the Scorpius, I like those. I didn't like some of the older ones they used. Let's see, the carbon paddles. I like the carbon 1, the carbon 2, and there's a lot of paddles we like. We demo everything, and we know what plays well. So what my son did is he found out some of the technologies that people are using, and I'll grab one. This is one of the paddles that he's come up with.
Oh, that's awesome! So what's the name?
This one is called the Pathos Revolution. It's a 19 millimeter thick paddle. And it just got approved by the USAPA.
That's awesome.
Shameless plug.
I love it. Please.
It's my son's company, and so he's making those. He's also making a cold press paddle, that's called a heat press or thermopress paddle. It's a very difficult process making those types of paddles. They're very expensive to make. He's also making a standard paddle that he likes, modeled off some of our favorite models from Yola, from Carbon, and from Paddletech. He's kind of taken some aspects of those paddles. He's made his own power series off of that as well. So those should be out by the end of the year sometime. But
that's awesome. So how did he decide to do that? Because that's kind of my question is there's a lot of different paddles. You guys are becoming a source, right? Every people want to know, what should I play with? And I was talking to a paddle manufacturer that you could have a tennis racket for many, many years. You could restring it with the paddles. People are moving through paddles pretty fast. I don't know if it's because they think it's going to improve their game or what, but they're moving. And what are the questions you're getting asked? I imagine a lot of people like how they want their game to get better.
I think people do. We call them, Neil Friedenberg of ProLight once told me that people who buy paddles a lot, he calls them paddle collectors.
Yeah.
Basically what happens, I think, is people use a paddle and they start playing poorly, or they demo someone else's paddle, they play well, they win a game. That's they want to buy that paddle then. It happens a lot. That happens a lot more in pickleball than it happens in tennis, but it does happen a lot. What we tell people is we look for paddles that have a good weight to them. We never recommend lightweight paddles. Lightweight paddles are very flimsy. If a ball misses the sweet spot, the paddle's going to shake on you. Mm-hmm. So you want to have a good weighted paddle. I say the heavier you can go, the better. Especially if you're female. I hate to say it, but if my wife plays with a 9.3 ounce paddle. I play with an 8.5 ounce paddle.
Interesting.
The more weight, if she has Riley Newman smacking a ball at her at 55 miles an hour, she better have a lot of power and weight behind that paddle to hit that ball back.
Right.
I don't need quite as much weight behind the paddle as she does. So she has that. And so you see a lot of women on the tour, most of them are over 9 ounces on their paddles. And so that's the one thing is I like to people to know, you want a good paddle, a wide paddle with a big sweet spot, and you want to have some good weight on that paddle. Then the different materials, you could choose fiberglass, a little bit more pop, a little bit. Carbon fiber has more feel. I think that's why almost all the manufacturers have been switching to carbon fiber over the past 3 years. Pretty much all of them are doing that now. And whether you want to paddle with a hole in it or not, or if you want a paddle that's 14 millimeters, which is a little more power, or 19 millimeters thick is a little more feel. Just depends on what you're looking for. But
gotcha.
We like demoing all these paddles, and there's paddles from each manufacturer that we really, really like. Like I named you the Selkirk Epic, the Paddletech Tempest Wave Pro, the Perseus and the Scorpius of Yola, the Carbon 1, Carbon 2. Armor Paddle has a great paddle out by Steve Wong. There's just a lot of really good models out there, but we bring all this to our camps.
You do.
Why my son launched this paddle line called Trnity.
Yeah, I was going to ask you what need did
he's young. He's young. And basically, he sees the best of all these different paddles. And he's basically said, why don't we make a paddle like this or like this or like this? I said, well, if you want to, go for it. He made paddles combining the best elements of those paddles.
Gotcha.
And so he'll have those at our camps, and as well as the other manufacturers as well. So,
and the name of the paddle company is Trnity, or what?
I'll show you. Is it backwards or forwards? That's backwards, isn't it?
No, I can see it. Pathos. Trnity.
It's called Trnity. Trnity.
I like it.
And as I said,
I think that's a really good, point. I think the evolution is people start and they're just interested in it, and then something switches and they really want to be good. And they sort of can see themselves as one of the pros, whether they ever get there. And I think that's why they want to come to your camps. And what do you find is the tipping point for players when they can really move from just, like you said, kind of what happened in your game against Catherine Parent, where you're like, I better learn these rules. I better learn the strategy. And is that what you're seeing in your camps? I'm
not sure when people decide they want to get better or whatnot, but when they have success at that 3-5 level, and the big separator we see from 3-5 players to say 4-0, 4-5 is their ability to stay close to the kitchen line, not backing up and attacking shots. That's that differentiator. When we do our advanced camps, they're not backing off that kitchen line. Our intermediate camps, they're backing off quite a bit. So that's like, as soon as players hit that moment in their game when they start developing roll volleys and attack shots and staying on that line, that's when they start getting good. And that's one of our main focuses at LevelUp Pickleball Camps, is we get people to stay close to that line at the intermediate camps and attack those shots. Yeah, there's times you're going to want to back off the line, especially at the advanced level, to hit some dinks and wide shots, things like that. But in general, you want to be at the intermediate level, you have to control the line. I call it controlling the line. And so that's a big thing that when people overcome that hurdle, that's when they start getting good.
That's awesome. And what are the other things, you mentioned a lot of tennis players move to pickleball and they just kind of assume they're going to be really good at it. But what about if you're not a tennis player? Do you think that those players can be, or you didn't have racket skills before? Let's not only tennis. Do you think that those players can become just as good as a former racket tennis pro? They can
become just as good. So one of our head pros, his name is Joel Ickes. Joel was a AAA baseball player. and he could have probably even gone NHL in hockey. Never played a racket sport in his life. He's now a 5'5", 6'0" pro. It just took him a couple of years. He's just a great athlete. I know a lot of really good athletes that never played tennis or any racket sport. They've just jumped into it. Rob Cassidy was one of the best pickleball players in the world for quite a while, and he wasn't a racket sports player at all. I took my young son took him on the tennis court one day and taught him how to play tennis, and it was funny just watching Rob try to play tennis because he couldn't. Rob is an amazing athlete, and he just became a great pickleball player. There's a lot of those players. A lot of Dave Weinbach was an Olympian alternate, I believe, in table tennis. There's a lot of table tennis guys out there, and a lot of baseball and hockey and soccer guys. Soccer men and women make great pickleball players because of their footwork. I've seen a lot of really good pickleball players who said they came from that soccer background.
Interesting.
So we see it all. We see it all in pickleball.
That's so great. That's so great. And so what's next for you? You're going to continue to grow the camps and play and.
What's next for me is I'm going to continue to grow the camp business. We're going to continue to grow the Pickleball Magazine, and we're going to be launching these 2 facilities, and that's it. Then we're done. You can
I don't believe you. I don't know if
I believe myself, but that's my plan. Is at that point in time, we're running those 2 facilities. We're running all of our camps across the country, and then we're just cruising with that. That's our intention, but things seem to have a way of changing every few months in pickleball for us, but that's our intention.
It's really exciting, Wayne, and I really appreciate your time, and I'm really excited about what you guys are doing, and hopefully I'll include in all the show notes, all the links to everything, and when your son launches his paddle company, awesome. And hopefully we can check in, in a few months and I can hear more about the facilities, but I really appreciate your time, and it really changed my own game and my perspective being at the camp, more than just the skills that I learned, which were incredible, was kind of, I don't know if you remember, there was a pro tournament going on while the camp was going on in Newport Beach. Yeah, and just seeing the interest and the enthusiasm and the community, I think the community was so warm. And anyway, that it really sparked something for me personally, like that it's bigger than just learning a sport. It's a community.
Awesome. Yeah, awesome. So, Newport's awesome too. Yeah,
I know that's a good place to attend camp. Well, thank you, and enjoy the rest of your day. Hopefully, you get some pickleball in.
Yeah, I'm actually going to go play right now. That's why I'm dressed for pickleball. So, thank you so much for having me today. I loved it, and I really hope you do check back in a few months. And
we will.
I'm sure it'll be a very different place than we're in right now because things just keep evolving. So
it's amazing.
Thank you.
All right. Okay. Happy dinking.
Thank you. Bye.
Hey guys, thanks for listening to Simply Pickleball. We will be back very soon with great interviews, discussions, and more, all about pickleball. Don't forget to subscribe to our channels on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, or any of your favorite podcasting outlets. Until next time, happy dinking.